your show now, press 1. To hear important instructions, press 2. To start your show now, press 1. To hear important instructions, press 2.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
To start your show now, press 1.
We are sorry, but we are experiencing a problem with our system. Please try your call again later or report a problem through the Blog Talk Radio webpage.
Insurrection, obstruction, indictments, civilly liable for sexual abuse. The one man responsible for all of that could be sitting in a prison cell on election day and still be elected commander-in-chief for these United States. That man is beholden to Putin, weakened NATO the last time around, and is currently tying himself to wealthy Saudi oil money. He enriched himself when government stated his properties. He campaigned on wanting to use government to go after his political rivals and wants to expand executive power. If Donald Trump is re-elected, our nation is lost. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and tell the MAGA folks no more before it's too late. Welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. Blog Talk Radio, as you've heard, is having some difficulties today, so we won't be doing phone calls today, unfortunately. However, if you want to join the conversation, you can leave your comments, etc., on the show show thread, or the episode thread on YouTube, which is liberaldanradio.com, just brings you to the channel, or on the twitch.tv/Liberal Dan Radio as well. Either chat is there. Clearly we can't look at the Blog Talk Radio chat today because Blog Talk Radio has crapped the bed yet again. So I do have a Google Voice number that I could potentially use if I wanted to take phone calls in. We'll see. I need to go check and see what that is first and foremost and set that up. and just use that as a backup just in case. However, I just also don't want calls just being randomly sent to that phone number, so who knows? We'll figure it all out, I suppose. So got lots of people in the chat so far. 20 viewers, 13 likes. Make sure to smash that like button. And then the patriarchy. Shouts out to the mod squad, Jolie and Aaron, as always, for doing the awesome things that they do, helping out with the show. Got Dave, Nick, Nerd Misha, Jeff, Steve. Who else? We got Teresa, Dawn, Suzanne, Romper, Stomper, Domper, Do, I see you and you and you. Jackie, good to see you as well. Nick, if I've missed you, I'm just kind of scrolling fast through the chat, so please forgive me. I know not what I do. Please forgive me. I can't stop. Actually, I shouldn't even quote him. I don't like Bryan Adams. I've probably told that story already. I'll tell it later if you've missed out on the funniness that is my hatred of Bryan Adams, which I was talking the other day. It's not, it could be solved by a public apology, but I doubt he's going to take the time to publicly apologize to one schmuck. So, like myself. So, it is what it is. And I have to do that because I don't have a soundboard, because Blog Talk Radio, again, has crapped the bed. So, haha. Anyway, so thanks everybody for joining in. And again, on this lovely Wednesday, where the jury in New York has stopped deliberating for the night. They want to rehear the jury instructions yet again, and we will be discussing some of that. We have Major League Baseball. We have Alito and the right to choose a flag. And more. Lots of stuff to talk about over the course of the show today. Plus, whatever randomness people want to throw into the chat to make the show better or worse, depending on your opinion of it might be. Anyway. But I did want to start off this show with just kind of a discussion. Towards the end of the show, we went long. Sure, we went long because I had a caller, and the caller who nicely subscribed to me over here on YouTube, which is great, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that I got the subscription, so that's good. But, and I do remember when he brought up the fact that we had spoken before. I do remember the fact that we had spoken in the past as well before, but there was a couple of things, I think, because it was getting a couple of points that I feel like I missed. And I feel like I should... one of the main points that I feel that was missed that should be talked about, that should be discussed, is why the caller felt the way the caller felt as it pertains to, here's the snapshot of the electorate. We have he sees all these people anecdotally in barbershops or stores or wherever. They're talking about how they're openly supporting Trump when they never would have done that back in 2016. And that's what they're saying. Well, I mean, anecdotal evidence is anecdotal evidence and it should be taken with the appropriate number of grains of salt. And that's first and foremost the thing that should be talking about. Hey, Manasseh, thank you. That's the individual. So, again, Blog Talk Radio is down. You can leave comments in the chat. Again, everybody be nice. As long as they're nice, be nice, and just discuss the topics at hand. A little thirsty today, sorry. Anyway, so one of the things though that I failed to point out in there that I would have liked to have pointed out towards the end of the show, although it was getting late, and soon after I hung up, Blog Talk Radio literally didn't even allow me to play my outro. So Blog Talk Radio will give you some wiggle room, but I guess no more than an hour. And maybe this isn't true specifically of you, the caller, but it's something that I've determined, that I've seen a lot of the times, generally speaking, is that an inability of some voters, I guess, or of conservative politicians specifically, and even the MAGA supporters, to understand maybe the concept that when given new data, that people may very well be open to changing their opinions. I've done it. I've changed my mind on political stances over the course. I mean, hell, when I ran for Congress in 2004, I held some political positions that I don't hold now because I listened to other people and I changed my point of view. So even if we want to believe that the polling is correct, and I'm sure you're going to believe, conservatives are going to believe that the polling is correct if it shows that Biden is winning, or that Biden is losing and Trump is winning. Conservatives are going to not believe any polls that say that Biden is winning. Liberals are not going to believe any polls that say Trump is winning, and liberals are going to probably be more likely to believe polls that say Biden's winning because we like to see the polls that confirm our biases, which, fine, and that's human nature. Okay. But let's just say, for example, that any poll that is accurate and at this segment of time, at this point in time in the electoral process, let's just say that the polls are valid and Trump legitimately has the lead. The point I would make is that I'm not going to say that those people that you're speaking to, like the people who are working class voters, the people who are individuals who might feel disenfranchised by certain elements of the Democratic Party or the left, and I'll correct one thing and another thing about that in a second. But I'm not going to say that these people are not the types of people to be who can't have their minds changed. Clearly, they're the type of people who can have their minds changed because they voted one way in 2016, and then now they're claiming that they're going to vote Trump now, for whatever reasons, because they have a perception, and their perception or worldview says that voting for this person may very well be better for them. Whether or not they're right or not, that's up to debate, and that's why we have the show, because we like to debate politics. But if those people can be convinced that their way of voting was wrong in the past and that they should vote differently this year at this point in time, those people should also we should believe that those people can be convinced to change their mind yet again, given new data, given new evidence, given new information to show that their worldview, that their perceptions are incorrect. And if their perceptions are indeed proven to be incorrect, those people are going to change their minds and go back to Biden if they've really left Biden in the first place. So that was a point that I would make. There's another thing, though, that I would point out is that the people who are complaining about the people, the youth on the campuses who are out there and protesting, and those youth are driving away the working class. Like, why would that drive you away from Biden? The people who are the youth on those campuses are just as angry at Biden as they are at Netanyahu, as they are at everybody else, regardless of whether or not they're legitimately in their criticisms of Biden or not. Like, those people who are out there protesting, for the Palestinians, which I support Palestinian freedom, I just don't support the way Netanyahu's doing it. Those people are not the Democratic Party. Those people are probably not even registered Democrats. Those people are on the left. Sure, they're so far to the left, a lot of them are, that if you call them a liberal, they get insulted. Like, I consider myself a pragmatic progressive and a leftist. And yeah, but if you're calling me a liberal, clearly I don't get upset because I'm liberal Dan. Talk from the left, that's right. So I don't see the big deal about being called a liberal. But if you call these people liberals, they get mad. Ooh, they get mad. Don't you dare call them a liberal. So the idea that you would not want to vote for Biden because of these people on the campus, these people on the campuses are not voting for Biden, so they say. They're willing to chop off their own noses to spite their faces because they're angry at Biden. So to not vote Biden because of what these campus protesters are doing is just silly because they're not voting for Biden. And Biden, if you want to look at Biden and Trump, and I'm going to be having more videos about this, again, with my mother-in-law's passing, I've been very stressed, anxious, busy, tired, etc. And so I haven't had
the time, energy to put in the effort to make those videos recently. But I will be putting out more videos that'll be in the series that I have, which is the case for the case for Joe Biden, the case against Donald Trump. This is not April Fool's Day. I'm not making the case for Donald Trump. But we're going to be talking about all of those things. But there's been no better pro-labor, pro-worker, pro-working class president in the last 60, 70 years, at least, since Joe Biden. I mean, he's stood up for unions. He actually marched on a freaking picket line with the auto unions. He stood up and fought for what the rail workers were wanting, despite the fact that, people got mad because he actually pushed through the legislation to put him back to work, but then he worked behind the scenes again to get that done because he supports unions, he supports labor, he supports the working class. He's from the working class. He understands what it means to be a working class person. He understands that. The idea that a working class person is going to find anything in common with Donald Trump is bizarre. Donald Trump has never been working class, will never be working class. Not once. He will never understand the struggle of a working class person, of a working class family. Not once. Joe Biden may have a nice house now, he might have money now, but Joe Biden grew up working class. He understands what it means to be a working class person. It's not just that he empathizes or sympathizes, he's lived it. So the idea that a working class person is going to find any support in Donald Trump is just absurd. And look at what Trump did back when he said, we're going to get the people back to work we're going to bring back manufacturing of steel. We're going to bring back steel production. And so the steel mills opened back up or started pumping out more steel, and the union workers who had basically said, okay, we'll take these cuts and these losses that we might normally not take because we in the hopes that sometime in the future we'll be rewarded by our bosses. And then Trump comes along and says, yes, I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to be great for the steel industry. And the steel workers are like, yes, we're going to have a president who fights for us. And then what did he do? He fought for the corporations, and he didn't fight for the unions at all whatsoever. There is no person that I can think of who would be worse for working class families than Donald Trump. Period. With a T at the end. So I don't know how anybody, and I would love to sit here and have conversations with working class people who literally believe that Donald Trump will be better president for them. Because he's not going to be. You might think he might be a better president for business, and that as a better president for business. Thank you for the bits, Alyosha. Appreciate you. That he might be better for business, and then you might believe that when he's better for business, that those benefits are going to come trickling down to you. Well, you've seen Lucy in the football, right? With Charlie Brown. Don't be Charlie Brown. Donald Trump is Lucy, and he's going to move the football again. He's never going to let you kick the ball. It's never going to happen. No, you're never going to get it. Never, ever going to get it. Sorry, my bad. Trump karaoke of never going to get it. In Vogue. Sorry. What about De Niro? The GOP pundits were assessed. Asks, the GOP pundits and all of the GOP, they were all like, "You're a hack, De Niro." People yelling at Robert De Niro for standing up against Trump. I don't know. I don't want to mess with Robert De Niro. I know he's an actor, and I know a lot of the stuff that he's done in the movies has just been acting, but you don't play that many mobsters and in your movies and not pick up a few things. I wouldn't want to mess with old Bobby De Niro. No. But I mean, I think it's great that he got out there and he's just getting in the faces of the MAGA folks who are trying to tell him that he's obsolete, that he's irrelevant, that this, that, or the other, trying to insult him just because he dares speak the truth that Donald Trump would be terrible for this country. Absolutely terrible. Let's see, TK, Teresa, that's my younger sister's thinking. Trump is a businessman, so she feels it's good for America. As a president, I disagree with her. And I'm like, oh, I'm a G and WTF, sister. Yeah, I don't understand the mindset. He's not even good. I was at the Disney Lorcana tournament, and I was having a discussion with an individual after I lost to him. But we had a nice, pleasant conversation, leaving the tournament area, waiting for our next rounds to happen. And I was talking to him, and we were having, he was saying something about, like, he wasn't sure who he was going to vote for. It doesn't matter, because he's from California, and California's going to vote for Biden. So even if he votes for Trump, his vote's just getting thrown in the trash. Just like me in Louisiana, my vote's getting thrown in the trash too. So he was like, but isn't Trump, being a business person, doesn't that mean he's good for business? I was like, no. Trump has only ever been good for his businesses. And not even that. Trump's not necessarily great. You might point to his bankruptcies and say he's not good for business, for his own businesses. I make the argument that, yeah, we like to throw around the Trump bankruptcies as an example of him being a failed business person, but his bankruptcies were by design. His bankruptcies were just another manipulation of the financial system, just like the whole KB Toys thing, just like Red Lobster, just like all the other examples of how big businesses abuse bankruptcies to enrich themselves. Donald Trump has abused bankruptcies to enrich himself. Donald Trump hasn't even had to deal with bankruptcies in some cases to enrich himself, to screw over the people he owes money to. So Donald Trump is never going to be in it for your business. He'll be in it for his business. If your business just happens to get a benefit from whatever it is that he's trying to benefit from, that is just lagniappe in Louisiana terms, just a little extra, bonus. He doesn't even care about that. It doesn't matter to him that, if your business is going to get benefited, but he doesn't care about your business because he will screw over your business as soon as possible if it means that he'll make another buck. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Over $26 million fines and 7 bankruptcies in Trump. That's great business. Well, I mean, again, the bankruptcies were planned. These are not necessarily him being a bad business person in and of a sense where he didn't know how to run a business. There are people who will run businesses in such a way so that they'll try and suck out every possible little bit of profit and then just let the business wither away and die once it's no longer useful to them. But they'll still make money on it. Because, make no mistake, I'm sure he's made plenty of money off of those businesses. Now, granted, it said that he might have made more money had he just taken the money he inherited from his dad and stuck it in hedge funds. But then again, that's just investing in other people who are doing the same BS. So, again, Trump is never going to be good for your business purposefully. He might be, again, if your business happens to get helped by any of his legislation, whatever, it doesn't mean that he's actually doing it to help your business, and it's just a side effect. It's not the purpose. He's more than happy to trample over your small business and screw over your small business if it means he's going to make another buck. So that, I don't trust people bleed business dry. Of course he's terrible. I mean, and that's what he does, is that he's going to bleed his own businesses dry, suck out every inch is the right word. Every little bit. He's going to squeeze every little penny out of it. He's going to turn the couch upside down and shake it out, let all of the change fall out of those businesses, and then throw it away, because he doesn't care about it at that point anymore. He can just start a new business and start a new a new scam, like Trump shoes or Trump Bibles or whatever, and he can start the new scam, lather, rinse, repeat. And Trump Truth Social, pump and dump schemes. I mean, I'm sure as soon as he's able to, I'm sure he's going to cash out. He's going to try and push Truth Social up to be as high as possible, even though it hopefully, I would love to see people short it to all hell, but he's gonna, if he's able to push it up and convince his people to keep buying and keep buying and keep buying Truth Social stocks, even if it means that they're investing in nothing, he'll do that, and then he'll sell, and then the people will be left holding the bag. So, yeah, 45 implemented tax cuts across the board for the wealthy, permanent, for us 2-year limit. Yep. Because again, he doesn't care about the working class. He cares about himself and what's going to help himself. Again, if it happens to help somebody else, oh well. It's not gonna make him feel good. It's not gonna make him feel bad. But he'll use it if he thinks it's going to get him votes. But don't think for a second that he's doing it to help you. Let's scroll back and see some of the comments being made, because, I've seen some, but I haven't seen them all yet. So, we got Janelle. Good to see you, Janelle. I don't know if I said hello yet, but hello. I do want to give a shout out to Aaron and to Andrea, both of whom have joined my team on the game pinned to the top. I only need 8 people to play and get to level 125, and I only need 5 total people as part of my team. Hopefully everybody joins the team to be able to get the points so I can get the extra money. This is a very short, simple, easy little game to play. I was able to get to level 125 overnight. Like, I'm just sitting there just waiting to go to sleep. Play. And by the time I was done after the stream, I was like, oh, there you go. I'm over level 125. Let's see. Let's keep scrolling. Jeff Curry, Brian Adam reminds me of the movie Robin Hood and Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman get launched over the wall by catapult. Why would they leave a catapult outside the walls? Seems weird to me. Let's see. Tech stuff. Teresa's having issues being seen on House Channel. I was having problems being seen on Trucker John's channel. I think somebody inadvertently muted me. And I say it also helps that Dan is really knowledgeable and makes solid arguments and is not just an ideologue. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Those are the kind words that I look out for. Those are the kinds of things that I hope that makes my show different than a lot of the ones out there. Because I do try and be knowledgeable about what's going on, and I do try and, not just be an ideologue, and I do have my own things and my own criticisms. Like, today, when I heard something about the Biden administration trying to kind of weasel around how what Israel did in Rafah didn't quite meet the level that what he was talking about, that he would stop giving aid or supplies to Israel, I was just kind of like, that's not the best position to take there, Biden. It's not enough to make me lose support in Biden, but it's enough for me to say you're not going to gain support from the people you're trying to gain support from if you're not going to take a stronger stance up against what Netanyahu did in Rafah. And we could talk a little bit more about that later, but Chad Bostic, they're going to vote on how their bank account feels, to be honest. Well, my bank account feels great ever since Joe Biden became president, so I don't know. Sometimes some people's bank accounts aren't necessarily the fault of the president. They're the fault of the people who are owning the bank accounts. Some people make poor choices in life. And I remember, again, I lost several jobs during the Trump administration. I had a problem finding jobs during the Trump administration. Yet, during the Biden administration, I found a full-time position that I've had basically the entire time he's been president. Maybe less a few months. So, yeah, sure. I mean, but see, that's the thing. I also think that voting your pocketbook is selfish. Because voting your pocketbook ignores all of the harm that's going to be done to marginalized and oppressed people in this country. And you know, I mean, at the end of the day, I will probably be okay in a Donald Trump presidency, ignoring the fact that I'm Jewish and he supports anti-Semites. But I will probably be okay at the end of the day if Donald Trump is president, but a lot of other people won't. So it's my responsibility to not just vote to benefit those other people as well, to make sure that they're benefited, but to make sure that they're not harmed. So, Nick Rich, my birthday is March 4th, and we're both Pisces. Great, nice. My ex-girlfriend's birthday is also March 4th. See, I'm such a good person to be in a relationship with. I remember the birthdays of my exes. So, see, I want to sign shells for Mar-a-Lago. See, my older sister is going to be 62 years old in August. Wow. A liberal, not a maggot. Yes. Thank you. Let's see. Let's keep scrolling down. Big Hook, I know the feeling. My dad died. My daughter is going through things and is acting up. Existential crisis of her own making. I want to pull out my hair at times. I feel you. I absolutely feel you. I've been exhausted. Like, sometimes I think you'll see, you've seen me sometimes during the show. I'm fighting yawns. I make some yawns. It's not because it's late. It's because I'm exhausted. But I have a commitment to the show. I have a commitment to making the show better. And I feel that the show and some of the things I produce, I hope that some of the things that I produce in making this show is going to help people, you know, when it comes to, like, you know, maybe there'll be videos that are made where you can be like, oh, well, instead of me having to type out all these things, go watch this video that Liberal Dan made because he made an excellent point. Go watch this and see what he has to say. So I feel like I would be remiss to stop doing the show, despite my exhaustion, you know, because there are important things to take care of through November. Maybe in November I might, you know, take a week off or something. Who knows? We'll see. But I mean, I am taking a week off in July because I'm going on a cruise, but still, it is what it is. He was hilarious in Bad Grandpa. Yes, he and a fellow Delawarean, because I was born in Delaware. I was raised in Baltimore, but I was born in Delaware. But Aubrey, was it Aubrey? What's her name? She, the other one who was in Bad Grandpa. They're both hysterical together. Let's see. Chad, I think that since De Niro did an ad for Biden, it was a bad luck for him to be around the courthouse. Gives the appearance of the administration campaigning somewhere they said they weren't involved in. I mean, Robert De Niro is an actor, so he gets paid to do jobs, and then he also has a First Amendment right to go out and to say things that he wants to say and do things that he wants to do. So it would be, you know, I don't necessarily know how good or bad it is. I mean, what? How much support does one have to have? Does one have to show for Joe Biden in order for them to not be able to go to the courthouse and counter protest the MAGA folks who are protesting Trump being put up on a trial that's fair and, you know, treating him like anybody else would be treated. So. What about Crocs? Are people disparaging Crocs? So yes, Andrea and Aaron are both on my team, which is awesome. Aaron goes, yay, this game is addicting. It's a fun game, and you can sit there and just play and play and play and play and play. It's very easy to get to 125. I'll probably keep playing it past, just like I'm still playing that Marvel game that I was pushing, because it's fun. It's a fun game. I've picked up a new game to play. I mean, I am a nerd, so me playing games is not a shocker, but this is one of those, like, matching games, like, kind of like Candy Crush, like that sort of thing, so it's not as in-depth and complicated as some of those other ones are, so let's see. SCOTUS needs to be overhauled, not the same SCOTUS as RBG. Yes, it does, and we'll get to SCOTUS in a second. So I saw skinhead guy in Walmart, swastika rebel flag tattoos all over his arm. He was throwing a fit because they wouldn't sell him all the ammo for Assault Rifle. All the ammo. Would they sell? I'm not sure they would sell him some of the ammo, but just not all of the ammo. Oh, not the Crocs. It's the people of Walmart. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay. Because Crocs are comfortable. And I find that my feet smell much less when I go to Disney World if I'm wearing Crocs, so. Not that you need to know any information about my foot odor, but still. Although I did wear sneakers and socks with, like, odor eaters powder in the sneakers so I can make sure that I wasn't stinky for the entirety of the time I was at the nerdy card convention or the nerdy card tournament or whatever. Again, I wish more people would do the same. So, okay. Oh, let's flip back over the Twitch. Alyosha, Donald Trump entered the fashion world with Trump socks, but his attempt to capture the market's attention. Trump perfume failed to leave a lasting scent. GoTrump.com was a search engine meant to rival the likes of Google, and Trump Magazine and Trump Ice and more that failed. So I'm sure he had some failed businesses, but there's other businesses that he did that, like, his casino. And I'm sure he didn't, it's very easy to make money as a casino as the house, but I'm sure when his casino went bankrupt, it wasn't because he was necessarily mismanaging it in the terms of he didn't know how to run a casino. He was mismanaging in the fact that he was just trying to take all the money and take it out for himself and not reinvest it back into the business. So he let the business fail and then let the city deal with the mess afterwards. That's the sort of thing. Anyway, so 8:42 seems like a good time to start talking about one of the other topics we're going to talk about today. And one of the topics that I wanted to talk about today is let's bring it up first. The Scott Peterson verdict from, 22 years ago-ish. As we all know, Scott Peterson was convicted of murdering his wife and unborn child in California court 22 years ago. He was sentenced to death, and they overturned the death penalty in 2022. But now it just so happens that the Innocence Project has jumped on the case, and new evidence was found and new testing is available that will enable him to. The new testing is available that would enable Scott Peterson to have certain things tested that weren't able to be tested years back, and as such, potentially, according to him, prove his innocence. Now, do I believe that Scott Peterson is innocent? No. He was proven guilty in a court of law. Now, yes, as the Innocence Project will say, the ruling was based on circumstantial evidence, and as there was no murder weapon found, there was no hard DNA found, so there were questions, I guess, that were asked at the time, but they were able to convince a jury beyond reasonable doubt at the time that he was the person who, in fact, murdered his wife. But notice the key word that I said there, at the time, because at the time they didn't have certain testing available to be able to test certain things. And one of the issues that I raised during the primaries for the 2020 campaign was one of my issues with Kamala Harris was how she vehemently fought against the release of, I think his name was Daniel Larson, as it pertained to him being found to be factually innocent by a judge because the facts of the case proved that he wasn't guilty of the crime. So it wasn't just that there was not enough evidence to convict, it was that he was proven innocent by these facts as they came available. But despite the fact that he was found by this judge to be incarcerated wrongly, Kamala Harris and the California District Attorney's Office were not wanting to release this guy despite a judge finding that he was factually innocent. And the judge literally said factually innocent, which is a problem. So regardless of how you feel, feelings should never come into play when it comes to these sort of things. When it comes to getting justice, feelings should be stripped away from the entirety of it. I don't care about feelings. I mean, obviously people are hurt and upset and sad and distraught that one of their loved ones was taken away, that she was pregnant, so they were going to have a new relative. Her parents would have a grandchild, or her siblings would have had a nephew. So clearly there are people who are going to be upset and who wanted to see justice, and that's fine. It's fine to want to see justice, but justice doesn't mean you keep the same person locked up if there's new evidence that might show that the person really didn't do it. Do I believe that this evidence is going to prove he didn't do it? I don't know. I don't have the evidence. I don't know. I don't have the technology in front of me to be able to go test that evidence and say, oh, well, clearly this proves his innocence or not. But the Innocence Project has a pretty good record of standing up for people who are factually innocent and getting them released from prison once they're able to show the courts that these people were wrongly convicted. Now, does that mean that they're going to win here and that they're going to get him released from prison and find the guy who really did it? Kind of like the whole OJ thing of, let's find the person who really killed Nicole Brown. No, he may very well still be factually guilty. And I don't believe that the Innocence Project has a 100% record of getting people exonerated. I don't know what the stats are specifically on how many people they've tried to get new evidence introduced on, and that evidence didn't disprove the guilt. But the thing is that if new technology exists to be able to test to see whether or not somebody is guilty or not, to link that either links somebody to the scene or says that this person wasn't linked to the scene, then that should be tested. And this is, again, not because I think that Scott Peterson is innocent, but it's because this is the standard that we should have for everybody. Everybody should be treated the same under the law, and everybody should have the ability to you don't have to prove yourself innocent in a court of law. But if you're found guilty and then more evidence is found that could overturn that guilty conviction, you should absolutely be able to introduce that information into... You should absolutely be able to put that information into the court record, be able to hear that information, have a judge and or a jury look at that information, have investigators look at that information, and be able to say, oh, you know what? Put it in a lab. This actually shows that you didn't do it. This shows that somebody else did it, and now you're free to go. And that's what everybody should have. So earlier today, they were talking about that. Well, apparently an hour ago, San Mateo judge, let's bring this up here so it's easy for me to see. San Mateo judge ruled against all but one DNA testing request from Scott Peterson's defense on Wednesday. Jury convicted Peterson nearly 20 years ago. This is the KCRA.com. New team of lawyers with the Innocence Project requested that items gathered during the original investigation undergo DNA testing. So here's the thing. There are specific things that were found. These are not new items that were found. These are items that were already in existence. They already exist. They're already found during the investigation. And now they would like these items to be tested with the new technology that we have. So here's how the judge ruled on DNA testing these items. 1. Deny testing what the defense called a bloody mattress found in a burned out van near the Peterson's Modesto home. The judge argued that the 2019 testing didn't show it was blood, and therefore no new technology would change the results. Okay, but if it didn't show that it was blood back then, what if it would show that it was blood now? There's a question. Denied testing on a hammer and work glove found in a neighbor's home after a burglary. Okay. Denied testing on some of the items found. Now, what if that work glove and hammer happen to have the DNA of Lacey Peterson on it? Would that then blow the whole case wide open potentially? Denied testing on some of the items found in the San Francisco Bay, including a Target bag, duct tape from the bag, 4 packages of debris from the bag, duct tape from the bay, a black tarp found 20 feet from Lacey's remains were discovered, and a black tarp found a month later. He denied testing for the twine found around the neck of Lacey's fetus, Connor. And then granted testing on duct tape found on Lacey's pants. The pants were tested in 2013, but the judge said new testing is available. So one thing can be tested of all of the things that they've requested to be tested. This website shows pictures of the things that were found. So here's what happened in the court earlier that day. During the motions, the Innocence Project lead attorney Paula Mitchell spent the first 90 minutes discussing why the judge should allow the testing. She argued that new technology could determine whose blood was on the mattress that was recovered, if Lacey was present in the back of the van. So if there was shown that that you could find Lacey's blood on that mattress in the back of the van, that would show that Lacey's in the van, and therefore it changes the case. And if the items in the bay could match the items in the van, then that would also perhaps work to corroborate those things. Paula Mitchell also argued that the prosecution's case was based on circumstantial evidence with no murder weapon, witnesses to the murder, or determination of Lacey's cause, time, and date of death. Which again, you can have murder convictions on circumstantial evidence, but that was an argument that was posed back then as well. Mitchell says this is an exercise in search of the truth. We're trying to figure out what happened in this case. The prosecution has argued that there's no need for DNA testing as other evidence convicted Peterson. Why? If DNA evidence would disprove that, what if the circumstantial evidence was flawed and the DNA evidence gives a more solid answer? This is, to me, people who are career politicians in elected office and or the people working for them, working to keep people in prison specifically because they don't want to have a loss on their record. They also have said that Lacey's family deserves the right to have the case over. Why? Why does Lacey Peterson's family deserve to have the case over? Like, does that mean that if somebody's factually innocent in prison, somebody's sitting in prison who's factually innocent, and I'm not saying that Scott Peterson is, but if that person is factually innocent, that you have to somehow deny that person the ability to go free because the family of the person who was murdered should have to be free from having the case be reheard? No. Justice means you get the right person convicted. And if it is that Scott Peterson is the right person in prison, fine, good. Let it be. Let him rot in jail. Let him rot in prison. Let him rot there for the rest of his life. No problem with it. But the whole Lacey's family deserves the right to have no, they don't have that. You shouldn't have that right. The person who is charged and convicted of a crime should have the right to have new evidence produced or tested if new technology exists to test that evidence. Special Prosecutor David Harris said the request for testing is the third bite of the apple. The request of DNA testing is a collateral attack on the conviction, and it was inappropriate for the defense to drag the case out. Why? Again, if the person is factually innocent, like the Innocence Project has done, found people who were found guilty based on circumstantial evidence, and they've had them flipped over and flipped to be innocent because new evidence has shown that they're innocent, why shouldn't they be allowed to open their cases back up? He argued that there was no blood on the mattress and that to describe it otherwise was inaccurate. Okay, well then they should be able to prove that. Test the mattress. If you can't find blood on the mattress, so be it. But let him test. He also questioned how testing floating debris would eliminate environmental contaminants. And again, that is all items. That's all arguments that could be brought up in any test, in any argument, in any trial, or any rehearing of the case based off of the new evidence. But the idea that you can't introduce new evidence because the family of the deceased, the family of the person who was murdered, doesn't want to hear of new case open is absurd. It's malarkey. It almost ends here is, as of May 2024, the Innocence Project has exonerated 43% of the clients that they have taken on, and 42% of the people have been confirmed guilty, and 15% have had inconclusive evidence. The Innocence Project tracks IP successes, which includes DNA exonerations based on other evidence and other victories. Let's see, in almost half of the cases of the Innocence Project, 43% according to the Wikipedia article, 43% of the people who have been, who they've brought up the cases have been found innocent. To me, okay, and so it's about 50. So there's 15%, and where it's not, whatever. But of those where the DNA evidence doesn't help, or any other evidence doesn't help, ignoring those cases where nothing new was found, in half of the remaining cases, they exonerated people, and in half the other cases, they confirmed the guilt. So what's so bad about allowing this to go forward? It's a toxic part of our judicial system that requires people to sit and rot in jail, sit and rot in prison, if those people are factually innocent. Overturned convictions of the Innocence Project. Stephen Avery was exonerated in 2013 after serving 18 years for a sexual assault charge. Then, of course, after his release, he was convicted of murder. That's how making a murderer. Cornelius Dupree was convicted of sexual assault and robbery in 1980, exonerated by DNA evidence in 2011 by the Innocence Project. I guarantee you, if we looked into the Cornelius Dupree case, we would find that in the arguments being made, that the courts were like, we don't want to hear this case. The person was already found guilty, blah, 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 blah. See, according to the 26-year-old victim, picked Dupree and Massingill from the lineup, but her male companion did not. Dupree was charged with armed robbery and rape, but is never tied to the rape charge. In 1980, he was convicted and sentenced to 75 years in prison for the robbery. 3 of Dupree's appeals were rejected by the Criminal Court of Appeals. 2 appeals were denied because he refused to admit to being a sex offender. He declined early release in 2004 in exchange for attending a treatment program because he would have had to admit guilt at that point. Dupree said later, whatever your truth is, you have to stick with it. Dupree continued to write letters to people and organizations around the state to prove his innocence. In 2006, the Innocence Project took Dupree's case and carried out a forensic examination of the case evidence. He was represented by a legal team found by the co-founder Barry Scheck. Dupree was paroled in 2010. Soon afterwards, test results indicated the evidence contained DNA from 2 men, neither of whom were Dupree or Massingill. Dallas County District Attorney Craig Watkins said, our conviction integrity unit thoroughly reinvested the case, tested the biological evidence, and based on the results concluded that Cornelius Dupree did not commit this crime. So, now, I don't know how much it doesn't say necessarily there how much he fought that. Clarence Elkins was convicted in 1999 for rape and murder, was exonerated by DNA evidence. Ryan Ferguson was convicted in 2005 for a 2001 murder and exonerated because the prosecution withheld exculpatory evidence and the witness who testified against him recanted their testimony. Glenn Ford was exonerated in 2014 in the murder of Isidore Newman. Ford, an African-American, had been convicted by an all-white jury without any physical evidence linking him to the crime. His testimony withheld. He served 30 years on death row in Angola before his release. Anthony Porter was convicted of murder in 1983 and exonerated in 1999. James Calvin Tillman was exonerated in 2007 after investigation begun by the Innocence Project after serving 16 and a half years for prison for a rape he did not commit. Archie Williams was convicted in 1983 of a sexual assault and sentenced to life without parole, was exonerated in 2019 because of DNA evidence after 3 decades in prison. So there are a lot of people who the Innocence Project has absolutely helped, and these people, and I'm not saying that Scott Peterson is innocent. According to the numbers from the Innocence Project themselves, half of them, where DNA evidence can show guilt or innocence, half of them show innocence and half of them show guilt. So it's very well possible that the Innocence Project gets its information tested, it comes back, it all belongs to Scott Peterson, and he gets to rot in prison for the rest of his life, and is denied, and therefore it's shut, and he can no longer do anything else. But in the oddball chance that someone else did it and was able to frame Scott Peterson for it, the idea that the Peterson family or the Lacey Peterson's family should be free from having this case reopened means that also means that if he's factually innocent, that means that someone else is walking around who committed murder, who's able to do that and get away scot-free, no pun intended. Anyway, let's drop back through the thing. I mean, Andrea says he friggin' did it. I mean, that's fine if he friggin' did it. But again, this is not about Scott Peterson. This is about new evidence and the ability for people to produce new DNA evidence. And if there's new DNA testing that comes out that enables people to have things tested that weren't able to be tested before, those things should be tested. If just to confirm that we have the correct people locked up in prison. Because we currently have a system of justice in this country that fights too hard against people double-checking their work. There should be no issue with anybody double-checking their work. If I say something on this podcast that's factually incorrect, I want you to check my work. And if you correct me, and if I'm shown to be wrong, I'll do a mea culpa. I'll apologize. So, Kelly, why do we have to keep running tests with trying the same old case? My point is that if new methods that can test DNA come out that weren't available back then anybody anybody who is accused of a crime should be able to have that ability to have that information looked at. And even if Scott Peterson is guilty as all sin, the whole thing that you ask, why do we need to keep running tests retrying the same old case? Cornelius Dupree would say, we need to do that because I was wrongly convicted of sexual assault and DNA evidence exonerated me. Glenn Ford would say, I was wrongly convicted of the murder of Isidore Newman, and the Innocence Project helped and exonerated me. There's James Calvin Tillman, Archie Williams, Ken Wanamaker, if I'm pronouncing that right. Michael Sutton and Kenny Phillips went out for Phillips' birthday, May 2006. They were wrongfully arrested and incarcerated for 15 years. In 2023, their attempted murder convictions were overturned by University of Akron, granted them full scholarships during their degrees. Leonard Mack was exonerated of rape and gun charges after 47 years due to DNA evidence. Mack's wrongful conviction was the longest to be vacated due to advanced DNA testing. Leonard Mack would still be sitting in prison, wrongfully, if we were to follow the thing that we shouldn't go back and retest things. Perry Lott served 30 years in prison for rape and burglary charges before being cleared after DNA testing. Why should we keep retesting things? Because the Innocence Project is about 50-50 on getting people off who were wrongly convicted. Again, I'm not saying that I think Scott Peterson's innocent. I'm not saying this for the benefit of Scott Peterson. I'm not saying this because I give a rat's ass about Scott Peterson. Only thing I'm using about Scott Peterson is that if you go watch Demolition Man, that was made before the Scott Peterson case, they predicted that Scott Peterson would be in life imprisonment in California prison before Scott Peterson even committed an act of murder that he was accused of and convicted of. As of right now, he's a convicted murderer. I don't have any reason to believe that he's not a convicted murderer. However, if the Innocence Project is taking up the case, I say they have a pretty strong track record of either A, showing that they're innocent, or B, showing that they're guilty with this new evidence. So what's the harm in testing? There's no harm in allowing for retesting. Let them retest. Let's see. Big Hook. That case from before where a black man was found innocent, but the attorney general was slow, walked the pardon because he was racist AF. I mean, that also is the case. John Benet Ramsey case still bothers me. That case is absolutely very weird. Hell, if you watch the what's the Casey Anthony case. If you watch the thing on NBC on Peacock about Casey Anthony, I'm convinced that the father did it. I'm not convinced that's my opinion, but I'm convinced that it was the father and not her that did it, and that after years of abuse that he was able to manipulate her to do what he wanted to do so he could get away with murder and abuse. But that being said, again, this is not about the particulars of this specific case. That's not why I bring this up. I bring this up because this is about how the justice system should work. The justice system should not fight justice. And to me, if you're fighting somebody's ability to have evidence retested under new methods because those new methods might prove you wrong, then you're not really a justice system. You're an injustice system. And we all know that for a lot of things that we've already been shown, the Innocence Project has shown that we currently have a system of injustice in this country. Hell, the Innocence Project helped with the Daniel Larson case that I talked about, I believe. They helped show that he was factually innocent. And again, the state of California fought tooth and nail to have him released after a judge said that he was factually innocent. We have a Supreme Court who believes that you should not be able to file a writ of habeas corpus because if you miss a deadline, even if you relied on a judge telling you what the deadline was. If a judge tells you the deadline on a particular case to file is X, and you file on before X, but the real deadline was 10 days before X, the Supreme Court ruled, the activist conservative Supreme Court said, too bad for you. You don't get to file your writ of habeas corpus, even if you're factually innocent. So that's my point as to why we should allow. Because they had DNA evidence in Scott Peterson's case along with 4,200 pages. Did they really have? I don't know. The Innocence Project seems to suggest the story seems to suggest that there was not. It was all the evidence in the Scott Peterson case was circumstantial. It was a completely circumstantial case. I don't believe you're right in saying that there was DNA evidence. But again, there should be no problem with if the Innocence Project, especially if it's the Innocence Project, who has a pretty good track record, if they come along and say, look, these things should be retested, why not retest it? At worst, it's going to be inconclusive, and maybe you waste a little bit of time. Oh well. Or, in the worst case for Scott Peterson, is it confirms his guilt, and then we're like, see, you really did it, you murdering bastard. Suck it. But, and here's the big but, if he's factually innocent because the DNA evidence proves that he didn't do it, then he should be let go. And we should all be willing to accept that. We all have our feelings. Again, I feel that he did it. I absolutely feel that he did it. This is not about him. This is about other people who may be wrongly convicted. And anybody who may be wrong, anybody has the possibility of potentially being wrong and convicted, especially if there was DNA that wasn't able to be tested that is able to be tested now. And the Innocence Project has shown that it doesn't necessarily waste its time with this sort of stuff. 43% of their cases that they bring up end up in exonerations. That's not bad. And that's people who should have never been locked up in the first place, people who should have never been convicted in the first place, people whose lives get to start over, granted late, but they get a new lease on life because somebody rejected the argument of why are we bothering to retest these things. That's my point. Anyway, this is going to go up as a video, a separate video in and of itself. Agree or disagree, leave your comments below. Remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel. Remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and as always, have a good day. Anyway, that's the end of that that's the end of that cut of that video. Let's go back through more of the comments though, just to see. Oh, we had a lot of deleted comments. What is going on? Pink Parasol Lycée or whatever? There's some crazy stuff. Interesting. Very interesting. I saw something about me defund Halloween. What? What the hell is that about? I missed a lot of interesting stuff while I was on that rant. All right, so let's go back where we were. Boo, 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 boo. I stayed up to 3 a.m. to get on Liberal Dance Team. Look at you, Andrea. You're awesome. I know you're eating food right now, but, you know. I think you said you were eating. What's up, Janelle? Good to see you. Let's see. Scroll. Daughter's fiance is a Walton of the Walton family. He won't step foot into Walmart. Nice. I say that 12 hours they'll have a verdict. What, in the Trump case? Probably. Hopefully by sometime tomorrow they'll have a verdict. Let's see, I think I skipped back a little bit too far. I did jump back a little bit too far. Oh well. That's another Pink Parasol Lycée or whatever that is. Was it supposed to be lies? I don't know. To Jeff Curry, if Scott Peterson knows he is guilty and new evidence is there, what would he want to chance it? It's a reasonable question. I mean, anybody who, at this point, if you're guilty, just give it up, right? But I mean, there are people who are unwilling to just even admit that they did anything wrong. So. Roger and Out says guilty on Twitch. My feelings are never wrong. What if the other way around? What if someone is found innocent and can later be proven guilty? Not so sure that DNA will prove it. It's a new trial could release a guilty man. Well, I mean, didn't one of our founders say better for 100 guilty people to go free than an innocent person be convicted? That's kind of like what our judicial system is supposed to be set up at. It's supposed to be hard to convict somebody. It's not supposed to be easy to convict somebody. It's supposed to be hard to convict somebody. And what if somebody found innocent can later be proven guilty? Well, if that's the case, then double jeopardy applies and you can't do anything about it. But, like, for example, like so Stephen Avery was brought up, I think, from the Innocence Project because they cleared him in a rape, and then they convicted him of murder. But the thing with the murder conviction was that he should not have been convicted of murder, not because he had anything, not because I have any opinion on whether or not he did it or not, but because the police in that department mishandled the evidence so poorly and misbehaved so badly that nobody should have been convicted in that case, because they screwed over the evidence so much that nobody should have been able to be found guilty from it. But yet he was still found guilty. Roger now says, not sure the DNA evidence will prove guilty, but a new trial could release a guilty man. It could, but it could also release an innocent man. What do we err on the side of? If you asked me to give somebody a new trial based on new evidence, should we not have the trial because it could release a guilty person, or should we have the trial because a new trial could release an innocent person? I say have the trial because the risk of releasing a guilty person is even the idea that you might release a guilty person is clearly a bad thing, but the idea that you might lock up as an innocent person is even worse. That should be the worst thing that our legal system can do. Lock up an innocent person. Which is why we should always be erring on the side of always make sure that we get it right. Double check your work, triple check your work. Let people check your work. And if your work is found to be faulty because you missed something along the way, then guess what? Good. It's good that we found the fault in what the system did. But just because we have a conviction doesn't make it right. And the Innocence Project has proven that lots of people have been locked away who are innocent and who should not be. Nice change of topic. It says civilians shouldn't be bombed in Gaza, but shit happens. Yeah, true. And they shouldn't be. Innocent civilians shouldn't be bombed. And the people who are responsible for that should be punished. But that doesn't have to do with guilt or innocence in American courts. Let's see. Boo. Trump White House is full of drugs. Any chance the video was slightly slowed like they did with the... I don't know. Yes, we had a troll person. Defund the trolls. The trolls are a scam. Daughter is director of admissions at an elite girls' college. Son has an Emmy, yet I'm most proud of them for when they teamed to wipe their own butts. Nice. Let's see. First time I changed her diaper, the friend of mine was like laughing his ass off. He's like, "Do you own stock in baby wipes?" Nice. If you don't want to come into my own house because I burned sage, it's working. Nice. We talk about the John Bonet thing again. Tim, I still say the son did it because he was jealous of the situation, of the attention that John Bonet was getting. Probable. And that would explain the family cover-up. Serial killers leave no witnesses. Your only chance is to fight like hell and get away. I mean, that's true, but I don't know why that's relevant. Suzanne says, off topic, we're going to have a bad hurricane season. So they say. There's a few times where they've predicted a bad hurricane season and it wasn't bad. Let's hope it's the latter. Let's hope it's not really bad. Jeff Curry, you got me on Herman Munster. Are we going to go back to My Cousin Vinny again? I look like the older version of my son, but forehead is square and stitches. Nice. Okay, so there we go. So that's my little rant, I guess, on Lacey Peterson and Scott Peterson. Why we should be looking at it. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's really true that Scott Peterson didn't do it, and if it's really true that this DNA evidence could exonerate him, and that somebody else actually did it, maybe it might find maybe they might find who the person really is. If that's the case, test. And if the test confirms that it's Scott Peterson, good. Let that be the end of it. Because again, of all of the cases that the Innocence Project has done, where conclusive results were able to be found, half proved innocence, half proved guilt. And so either Scott Peterson's gonna get a great day in court with his one piece of evidence, or he's not. But the fact that the judge seemed to be going along with most of the prosecution's arguments seems that, you know, I have a problem with that in the grand scheme of things as it pertains to anybody. Would that judge have said the same things and stopped anybody else from getting their evidence overturned or looked at as well? Or is it just that because of Scott Peterson? I don't think it's just because of Scott Peterson. You have defense attorneys, you have state prosecutors, you have people who are working for government who are more than happy to let innocent people fester in prison because they don't want to admit they got it wrong. I think the Duke rape case guy, who was the prosecutor for the Duke rape case? Prosecutor, Duke rape case. I put cake. Mike Nifong. Mike Nifong absolutely believes, still, I believe it's true that Mike Nifong believes that the people who were accused still did it. See, January 7th, Nifong sent a letter to Mike Roy Cooper asking his office to resume responsibility of the case. Let's see. On December 26th, Nifong dropped the rape charge while the sexual assault and kidnapping charge was being pursued against the men after Magnum changed her story, saying that she was no longer certain where she was, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This was a few days after it was revealed that in court that Nifong had withheld evidence from the defense concerning DNA tests. Nifong has strongly criticized for pressing ahead for what appeared to be a weak case without any physical evidence. Defense argued that Magnum had given at least a dozen different accounts of the incident, blah, 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 blah. In January 2007, Nifong sent a letter to then North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper asking his office to resume responsibility of the case. And after Magnum changed her story yet again, claiming that somebody else was not involved in the attack. Previously, she said him and two others were responsible of it. The next day, Cooper announced his office would take the case. In April, he announced the charges against the three-player would be dropped based on significant inconsistencies between the evidence and various accounts by the accusing witness. So we believe that the three individuals are innocent of these charges. So it doesn't really appear. In 50 interviews, he has said that he was confident that the rape occurred, calling the players a bunch of hooligans. From early 2006, April, however, Nifong generally refused to talk to the media. Nifong was disbarred. And then, let's see. On July 25th, Nifong issued an apology for a less qualified apology, saying he did not challenge Cooper's conclusion that there was no credible evidence to support the charges that he made. Blah, blah, blah. In a letter addressed to the bar, Nifong formally surrendered his law license. Then he decried the fundamental unfairness to which his disbarment was conducted. So there.
July 24th, there was a call for the cases Knife Long had prosecuted to be reviewed by a basis of having shown to ignore due process, blah, blah, blah. So, again, it doesn't really seem that Knife Long seems to have changed the idea totally. Let's see, Roger Out says, you're asking for a system that is always 100% right. I'm not asking, I mean, that's the ideal. I'm not asking for a system that's 100% right. What I'm saying is that we should err on the side of caution of locking people up and making sure that if they're locked up, that they really are locked up legitimately, instead of the other way around. We shouldn't default to, you're locked up, tough crap. The prosecution here seems to be making the argument, you were convicted, tough crap. The fact that we have plenty of examples of people who were wrongfully convicted, who were later justified and redeemed by the Innocence Project, shows that we should not default to, you were locked up, too bad, so sad for you. We should default to, okay, let's give them another shot, just in case this new DNA technology, this new evidence that has come up, or the new ability to test the evidence, shows that we've got it wrong. Because a true system of justice would always be willing to admit that they got it wrong. So, Jeff Curry, when is the Bryan Adams story coming? Fine, I'll tell the Bryan Adams story again. All right, fine. So, let's just switch back the image to the base image of the show, and then we'll talk about the Major League Baseball in a second. Big Hook, you largely debated yourself on the Peterson case. Well, I mean, I did go to the chat occasionally to say what it is, but again, I'm trying to make the point that I'm not arguing for Peterson specifically. I'm arguing for a system of justice that will admit that it gets things wrong, and it should default to there should be a default of, well, there's new technology, let's test it. And we should have people serving in prosecutor's office, in whoever's serving in government, should be of the opinion of wholeheartedly embracing the idea of making sure that we get it right. Dotting I's, crossing T's, measure twice, cut once, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Jeff. Version of why do I not like Bryan Adams? Before we go to Major League Baseball talk and racists being sad and crying about Major League Baseball. On my first anniversary, I took my wife to 2 separate concert type things. One of them not related to Bryan Adams. One of them was it was a Izzard, the comedian. And we went to go see that concert. And there's been questioning as to whether or not Izzard wants to be referred to by the old name or the new name. Sometimes Izzard has basically said that now goes by she, her, but there are still some things in social media calling Izzard Eddie Izzard. So I don't know. It's a tough one because the topic isn't really. It's not as cut and dry as a lot of people are when it comes to their own gender and their own Izzard, the comedian formerly known as Eddie Izzard still goes professionally by Eddie Izzard in many circumstances, and that hasn't stopped yet. So I don't know, but also uses she, her pronouns. So anyway, that was the one thing we went to. And that was great. That was wonderful. I actually bought tickets and I couldn't download the tickets immediately. And I was like, why can't I download these tickets? Well, I want to download the tickets so I can have them. No, you have to pick them up at will call. Well, that's stupid. Well, it turns out the reason I had to pick them up at will call, because not only did my tickets include second row tickets, but they included backstage passes to the meet and greet after the show. And my wife was like, because she loved Eddie Izzard. And I was the best husband ever. But the other concert we went to was Bryan Adams. Got to go. And I loved Bryan Adams as a kid. I used to love his music, everything. Great. And when we picked up our ticket, for some reason in this one, we also had to pick up our tickets from will call. I don't know why. There was no backstage pass. There was no meet and greet. Nothing. And I'm glad there was no meet and greet because, oi.
So the sign clearly says, behind the person giving the tickets, no professional video equipment, no flash photography. So I'm like, okay, well, here's my non-professional Canon camera. I'm gonna, the little snapshot or whatever, I'm gonna turn off the flash to make sure it doesn't go off, and here we go. And so we're all standing around watching the video. I found one place to sit down because I was getting tired of standing, and take a few pictures. I did take a video or two of a couple of him singing or whatever. And then there's people right in front of the stage with their cell phones up, recording him. He points me out of everybody in the room and was like, I better not find this on YouTube. And I'm like, hold up. Like, you had just earlier in the show asked, does anybody here have my new album? And one person was like, woo! And he was like, oh, you're the one. And everybody chuckled. And when he points me out and he says, I really don't want to see this on YouTube, my response was going to be, well, maybe if I posted this up on YouTube, you'd have more than one person in Louisiana buying a new album. But I stayed silent because I didn't want to ruin the night for my wife. And all of a sudden, security comes over to me, no filming. I said, the sign when we got our tickets said no flash photography, no professional video equipment. This rinky-dink camera is not a professional video equipment, and I have turned off the flash. No filming. Okay. You better tell all those people over there by the stage that they better stop filming too, because I shouldn't be the only one being called out for this BS. He's like, all right. He walks over to the people, lets them know what's what. 2 minutes later, they're back up recording their stuff on their cell phone, and I'm sitting there steaming over frickin' Bryan Adams and him picking me out over... he ruined my night. Now, I didn't let it ruin my wife's night, but it ruined my night. And I just, from that point on, whenever Bryan Adams comes on the radio, flip, I turn it off. And it was funny. It was very funny because, like the other day, I was coming home from somewhere and I was listening to one station and went to commercial. I was like, I'm going to flip to the other station, but watch the other station. It's going to have Bryan Adams on. And I turn it on and it's in the middle of some other song. I'm like, oh, good, it's not Bryan Adams. The next song that comes out, I got my first real 6-string. I'm like, God damn it. Turn off the station. I was like, following me. And then I'm going somewhere with my boys, and I'm telling my sons this story, and I explain to them the whole story of me seeing him at concert, him calling me out. I tell them all about the story about me changing the station, and it ended up playing Bryan Adams, even though I didn't want to hear Bryan Adams. And so they laughed, and then I start changing the channel, and all of a sudden, like, as I changed the channel to some other station on the radio, it's the Summer 69 again. I'm like, that's the song! And then my son starts laughing at me again. Because, you know. You know. Because Bryan Adams hates me and just chases me wherever I go. So. Big hook. Everything he did was for my wife then, Dan. Everything I did was for my wife because I chose to not make us think about it. I chose to bottle up and just be like, namaste. Namaste right here. Listen to this jackass while my wife enjoys the rest of the concert. I'm not going to ruin my wife's night just because he pissed me the fuck off. Everything I did it for Cassie. Anyway, so yeah, screw Bryan Adams. Now, if he were to apologize to me, if he were to actually come up to me and be like, or message me, or guess, you know, years ago, Liberal Dan came to one of my concerts and I pointed him out and made a spectacle of him, and it's caused him to not like me, and I apologize for doing that. I publicly apologize to Liberal Dan. If he were to do that, then maybe I would forgive him and I would listen to his music again. But until that happens, the channel gets changed or skipped over if I'm like on Sirius XM, because we were looking on the drive to or from Atlanta. I'm scrolling through the Sirius XM channels, and one of the channels that was on in the rock station was Summer '69. For some reason, that's the one that they love to show me as well. Summer '69, and Bryan Adams is like, he was like, the Summer '69 is not about the year, right? Because in 1969 I was 3 years old. Like, thank you, we got that. We understood that it was meant as a kind of double entendre. So. One of the best things though that happened was I was rewatching, I think, the South Park Bigger Longer Uncut movie, and during the middle of the movie they're arguing with the Canadian government on one of the news channels, and all of a sudden he goes, "Well, you sent us Bryan Adams," and then the Canadian government's like, "No, we apologized for Bryan Adams years ago," and I'm with my story, I'm just like, that's hilarious. So. No, everything Dan did, he did it not for love, so get off Dan's back. What's up, Leanna Geyer? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. The hand gesture was turning. I mean, yeah, I guess I did do this for the hand gesture when I should have just been pushing the button to scan down. I don't know. I don't know if my mother-in-law's car is like that. I don't know. Jeopardy the other day. Who was the original singer of Van Halen? One lady rang in and said Sam Kinison. Wow. Oh my God. Can you imagine that? Panama! Oh! Thank you, Nerd Misha, for gifting 10 memberships. You're awesome. And it actually hit me as Kevin Anderson. So there you go. You got your wish, Kevin. You wanted another gift, and the gift came via Nerd Misha. Not all heroes wear capes, but maybe we should get Nerd Misha a cape nonetheless. So, anyway, let's go. Let's flip our scenes again, because I made a couple. But we're talking about Josh Gibson, not Gibson Media, but Josh Gibson. So. Josh Gibson is now the current Major League Baseball career batting average leader, and a leader in several other categories as well. Why is he now the leader and not Ty Cobb? Well, Major League Baseball has decided it is going to go ahead and take the records that were from the Negro Leagues and merge those records in with the numbers that are in the Hall of Fame to enable more people to be recognized for the accomplishments that they did, which is correct, the correct thing to do. And things like, Willie Mays played for the Negro Leagues a little bit, and then he played Major League Baseball, and Willie Mays, I think, had 10 hits added to his career. However, now, basically what they're saying is that the Negro League's information and the stats being added to the Major League Baseball's record is to right the wrong of black people being discriminated in this country and not being allowed to compete in the majors along with everybody else. And they're forbidden from participating in the American League or National League, and recognizing the Negro Leagues as major leagues is in keeping with the long-held beliefs that the quality of the segregation area Negro League circuits were comparable to the Major League product in the same time period. As they say in the quote, all of us who love baseball have long known that the Negro Leagues produce many of our game's best players, innovations, and triumphs against a backdrop of injustice. Commissioner Manfred said at the time of the 2020 announcement, now we're grateful to count the players of the Negro Leagues where they belong as major leaguers within the official historical record. So they've been going through newspapers, scorebooks, microfiche to be able to get all of the statistics And you've had 7 different Negro Leagues: the Negro League National League from 1920 to 31, Eastern League, American Negro League, East-West League, Negro Southern League, Negro National League 2, and Negro American League. So this information is going to be putting the data into the database, and I think more data will find its way into the database as well as they're compiling it. So it's possible some of these numbers might change even more. So, and the MLB page, several league records are now held by Josh Gibson as he and other Negro League legends officially join the all-time leaderboards. The statistics of more than 2,300 players launched today in the newly integrated MLB.com. Now, Major League Baseball was integrated a long time ago. However, it took this long to integrate the information into their system. So Ty Cobb, whose career batting average was .367, is now surpassed by Josh Gibson, whose batting average was .372. So this dropped Ted Williams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ted Williams has now dropped to 10th with the career batting average of .344 when he was originally 1, 2, 3, 4. He was originally 5th. So 5 people: Josh Gibson, Oscar Charleston, Judd Wilson, Turkey Stearns, and Buck Leonard were all added to the Major League Baseball records, and their career batting average numbers were thrown in there. So Ty Cobb's no longer the leader. Career on base percentage, Ted Williams is still number 1 at 48.2% of the time. Ted Williams got on base. Babe Ruth second. Josh Gibson is now third. Career slugging percentage, Babe Ruth used to be the leader with a 69% or .69 slugging percentage. Josh Gibson is .718 now, so he takes over first place in that. And then career OPS, Babe Ruth was 1.164. Josh Gibson is 1.177. As to what career OPS is, let's MLB OPS definition, because I really don't know what OPS is. I mean, I'm a huge baseball fan, but basically it's just on base plus slugging is what the OBS is. You take those two numbers and you throw them together, I suppose. So on base plus slugging is a statistic that combines a player's on base percentage and slugging percentage to represent their ability to get on base and hit for power. OBS is calculated as OPB plus SLG. A player with an OPS over 1 is considered excellent. It means they are both getting on base frequently and hitting for power. In Major League Baseball, an OPS of 800 or higher puts the upper echelon of hitters. I wonder, what's the OPS of Wade Boggs? Because that would be interesting to see. OPS is .858, which is weird, because they say if they're saying that an OPS of over 1 is excellent, and of 800 puts you in the upper echelon, but over 1 is great. But I would say Wade Boggs was a great hitter. And not, so maybe that's a flaw with OPS, because his OPS is clearly not 1, it's only .885, but his job wasn't to hit for power. He usually hit in first place, in the first bat at the top of the border, and leadoff. He usually hit leadoff, and therefore would his job was to get walks and to get singles. His job wasn't to hit for power. He did hit 118 home runs over the course of his career, but he had 3,000 hits. So OBP is getting on base. OPS is the slugging plus on base percentage. So Harry KP, can I just stay on home base and swing away? Swing away, Harry. Say Tim, I like the sentiment, but the window dressing leagues were separate, didn't face the same competition. But what they're arguing is that even if they didn't face the same competition, it's still a major league. I think for a while, was it the American League and National League didn't? When did? Let's see. Let me just confirm this before I say it. Well, I guess technically, that's true. So hold on. First World Series between NL and AL. The World Series began in 1903. When was American League formed? 1901. When was National League formed? 1876. So, but even then, like, it's been such a long time since it actually started interleague play that, again, I almost forgot that the American League and National League wouldn't play each other except for the World Series. So you never saw So one would argue that in reality, the American Leagues and National Leagues didn't necessarily play each other much either, except for the World Series. So yeah, the Negro Leagues may very well have had different players. That doesn't mean it's not a major league. So that's my point I would throw in there. But typically, as we would expect, the conservatives who heard this when it was announced, as soon as I heard this announced today, that Major League Baseball was going to be including this information that Ty Cobb would no longer be number one, I knew that predictably that you would end up seeing a whole bunch of whiny people crying over the fact that now we're counting people who weren't initially counted. And oh, they mad as hell. Let's see. So, of course, when will the Japanese league players' stats be included in the MLB record books? Well, I mean, this is an American baseball league, so there's a difference between, Japanese players being included and American baseball players who were forbidden by law from participating in Major League Baseball because they were black. There's a huge difference there. Of course, you have people posing, were the Negro Leagues equivalent to the Major League as far as talent? Well, that's what they said in the frickin' press release if you would read it. Let's see, what else? Someone else, this is something I don't know how to feel about. I'm sure you don't know how to feel. I'm sure you know exactly how you want to feel about it, but you don't want to say it because, this is why you need the coming to terms with activism video. This is why these people need the coming to terms with activism video series, because in the first coming to terms with activism video series, I described to people how they should handle things that they initially have a bad gut reaction to. Like, you hear something like, oh, they just integrated the Negro League information in with the Major League Baseball League information, and now they've all combined, and that kicked Ty Cobb's number 2. And these people's gut reaction is to get all mad and tense up and like, this is wrong. Well, instead of jumping to that conclusion and going to that right away, why not just, sit back, let it marinate a bit, listen to what they're saying, and understand why they're saying it. Because this was not a fan of this. We understand they weren't allowed to play, and that sucks, but they didn't account for these stats in the majors and shouldn't count towards MLB records. Why? That's an appeal to tradition, which is a logical fallacy. So, but again, it was just typical, very typical, that you would hear this, and it's sad that the people who are responding are so predictable that we could absolutely predict exactly what it is that they were going to say. let's see. Maybe we shouldn't have seen my comment to somebody was like 10,000 at bets instead of at bats, less than Ty Cobb. He played in a rec league. Maybe we shouldn't have been such a racist country, I say, and instead allowed all the people with talent to play so that he could have had more bats in MLB. But hey, hit dogs holler, and racists are predictably sad about this. And response to me was, you can hear the saltiness and fear in their tweets. They'd love for these men to stay hidden, shameful. Exactly. That's what many of the people crying about this. They want to see them. They want to see things as white as possible because that's their they support white supremacy. They support white supremacists. So anyway, that is my little conversation on that. Agree or disagree, leave your comments below. Remember to like the video, share it with your friends, and as always, have a good day. And of course, stop recording. Okay. And of course, that was just another me recording something live so that I don't have to worry about it, editing it later. Tim Farrell asks, hey Dan, what do you think of the movement led by American Indians to reinstate the name Redskins for Washington? Is it really that big of a movement? I don't know. Let's see. Americans fight to reinstate Redskins name. Let's see. Native American group calls on commanders to rename team Redskins. Cannot erase history. Native American group has put the rush on them against the Washington Commanders and demanded the organization revert back to the Redskins, the name they had when they were in Boston in 1933. Let's see. They filed a lawsuit. They're not just saying that they should do it. They filed a lawsuits. Let's see. The Native American Guardians Association accuses the NFL and franchise and new owner Josh Harris of defamation, civil conspiracy, and civil rights violations for their role in suppressing Native American history in a complaint filed in U.S. District Court of North Dakota. They led a viral petition this summer demanding that the organization reclaim its traditional Redskins identity. It generated 150,000 signatures. Were those 150,000 signatures all from people who were indigenous people to the country? Who knows? Commanders is a fitting name for oppressors, the suit states. The group seeks $1.6 million in damages and a seat at the table to share Native American history. Plaintiff attorney Chad Laveglia told Fox News Digital, of course it's Fox News, we believe the complaint is without merit and we will address the matter in court, said the Commander's spokesperson. The complaint also names the powerful National Congress of American Indians for its role in erasing from public discussion the image and history of real Native Americans. The suit claims that NCAI contributes to the legacy of cultural oppression suffered by indigenous peoples. The name Redskins carries deep cultural, historical, and emotional significance, honoring bravery, resilience, and honor spirit associated with Native American culture. The Redskins were, it adds, the only team in the National Football League to honor an actual Native American. Central to the Naga argument, is it how long has that group been around? Native American Guardians Association, NAGA. It's close to MAGA. It's too close to MAGA to seem to be a coincidence, but maybe it is. Who knows? Central to the NAGA arguments, the Redskins name and logo were inspired by real historic tribal leaders who played influential roles in American history, and this factual narrative was obliterated by the NCAI. The franchise adopted the name Redskins in 1933, and since 1972, the team logo was a portrait of celebrated Lake Blackfoot Chief John Two Guns of White, California. Among other contributions, the White Calf forced the federal government to recognize and honor Blackfoot tribal claims. The team's original name and logo were inspired by 17th century Lenni Lenape Chief Tammany, celebrated by colonial troops who fought the American Revolution as the patron saint of America. The Washington franchise in 2020 changed its name. The NCAI is funded by federal taxpayer dollars and counts among its benefactors George Soros. Open Society Foundations, of course, they're finding a way to tie Soros into this because that's what they do. Chief White Calf Redskins logo was designed in 1972 by Blackfoot tribal leader Walter Blackie Wetzel, with widespread input and support from Native American communities. Wetzel was the president of NCAI from 1961 to 1964. The NCAI in later years spent decades whipping up opposition to the logo designed by its former president. It issued an incendiary report in 2013 that claimed Native American images such as Redskins fueled low self-esteem, suicides, and racial violence. The report, NAGA notes,
Failed to mention the Native Americans Tammany and the White Calf who inspired the Redskins' name and imagery. The powerful few do not get to have a monopoly in the narrative. They cannot eradicate Native American history from the hearts and mind of Americans. Let's see. Let's do a little search though on when. Let's see what the Native American group, Native American Guardians Association. Let's just see what it is. And isn't it the Cleveland Guardians? Isn't that, isn't it the isn't the Cleveland Guardians? Did they name it that way because of the Cleveland Guardians? I don't know. It's American Indian Grassroots Movement, which was founded in June 2017 as a nonprofit stated with the purpose of promoting Native American history and preservation. So yeah, I don't think it's any shock that they called themselves NAGA because they were founded in 2017 after the formation of the MAGA movement. So to me, this seems like it's a conservative group trying to fight back against wokeness. But, I'm not going to sit here and try and argue and tell a Native American person, an Indigenous American person, I'm not going to sit here and try and tell them how they're supposed to feel about mascots, right or wrong. But I'm going to raise my eyebrow at this association that was formed, that seems to be formed in a way that to match along the MAGA movement. So I'm going to take that with as much grains of salt as necessary. And, well, kind of like, just like you have the situation where people, there might be a black person who might say that it's okay for me to drop the N-bomb. I've used this in another argument the other day on Facebook. That doesn't mean that I'm going to drop the N-bomb, because most other people are going to say, no, it's not okay for you to do it. I wouldn't want to do it anyway. But just because a small group of people say that they want to have it returned to the Washington Redskins doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right thing to do. And it just seems fishy that they've called themselves the NAGA movement after MAGA was already created. So I have my questions. Let's see. Let's scroll back a smidge. All right, there we are. Oh God, Jackie, 2 guys gave you their business cards when you left Walmart. They drew hearts on it. How romantical that is. Oy. Walmart is apparently a hookup place, according to Big Hook. I might be into them, I guess. I don't know. I find the best people at Walmart. Nobody better is at Walmart. Please make the new Star Wars movie with MTG B6. Java's cut as in Out for Revenge. Nice. I prefer to do it as 6B. It should be 6. I've been going with 6B instead of B6. So you should get the hashtag SIXB trending, because that I tried to get that trending and it didn't work. So y'all should help. One was a cement company. Well, at least it wasn't a pipe laying company, right? Although I do think this is probably the most amount of times in a show that I've ever said the word Negro. Which, there were the Negro Leagues, and that's what they were called, so it's appropriate to call them that, but still kind of weird. Chucker John, they should have changed it to Commandos instead of Commanders, maybe. But would that mean that they weren't wearing any underwear? I would wonder that. If they're the Washington Commandos, that means they're not wearing underwear? Surrender Monkey, I've only ever started watching a real baseball game once. I was well drunk before the game even started. Nice. I am glad that Native American Indians are okay in and around Kansas City.
See, Rounders was that movie with Matt Damon as a car truck with Edward Norton. I think that's correct. Chrissy Nome starting an investigation reservation of SD for what they dissed for the nice. Of course she is. Wait, Jeff, you fell again? Wait. Jeff, you need to take better care of yourself, please. It's not the first time you've fallen. What's up, Easy E Network? Good to see you. Jeff, please take care of yourself. Please don't go harming yourself again. Don't fall. Don't go breaking my heart. I wouldn't if I tried. What's the other thing I want to talk about today? The Scott Peterson retrial, we talked about that. We talked about the end of the show. We talked about the MLB records. I think we covered most of the stuff we wanted to talk about. So there you go. I felt the other day like coming out of the nerd gaming store. Oh yes, Alito. Thank you, Roger. I did want to talk about Alito. You're right. Let's flip back to the main one. Flip back to the main image. It's a brief topic. Yes. Basically just commenting over the fact that this whole argument by Alito is absurd. That Alito believes that, is trying to claim that he didn't fly the flag, that it was his wife that flew the flag, and he's still on that BS, even though the stories don't match up. Like, there was some story that claimed that some person yelled some horrible slur at her. I don't know if it was the C word or not. I don't know if she told Ms. Alito to see you next Tuesday or what. However, that apparently happened in February, well before the flag was flown upside down. So I don't know what they are talking about when it comes to that, or what he's talking about. Maybe he's thinking happy spouse, happy house. So therefore, if my wife wants to fly a flag, I'm not going to interfere with my wife flying a flag. But, I mean, it's ironic that Alito would be standing up for his wife's right to choose what flag to fly in front of his dwellings, be they his summer home or his regular home. But, yeah, the idea, and is in his letter... What does his letter say? Because his letter was bizarre, too. Alito letter about recusal. Because the lead ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee that to Chief Justice Roberts, Alito responded back to that. And he basically said that he could not. It would be improper for him to recuse himself. He could not recuse himself. Like, what? See, according to Vox's article, a development that should surprise no one, Sam Alito announced in a brief letter on Wednesday that he will not recuse himself from two cases involving the January 6th insurrection and former President Trump's attempt to steal the election. Alito faced widespread calls for him for recusal, including from many Democratic Party members of Congress, after the New York Times reported that flags associated with the movement to overturn President Joe Biden's electoral victory flew outside both his Virginia home and New Jersey vacation home. I want to see two things still known about the letter, however. One is that Alito blames both flags on his wife, Martha Ann. Martha, why'd you use that name? Okay, so here's Alito's letter. We can flip to that, I guess. Hold on, let's do this, and we can flip to the alternate view. There we go. Dear members, this is in response to your letters. Actually, let's record this because this could be funny. This is the letter from Alito back to members of Congress who are asking him to recuse himself, or saying that he should recuse himself for the flags flying, for letting his freak flags fly, so to speak. This is in response to letters on May 22nd and May 21st and May 24th, 2024, requesting that I recuse in 2 pending cases, Trump v. United States and Fisher v. United States, as well as certain other cases that might come before the court. In those letters, you claim that 2 incidents involving the flying of flags created an appearance of impropriety that requires my recusal. 2 incidents that requires my recusal? Wouldn't 2 incidents require my recusal? So I would take my red ink English pen there and say, nay, nay, you already have a failure in your poorly written letter. This applicable provision of our code of conduct states as follows. B. Disqualification. A justice is presumed impartial and has an obligation to sit unless disqualified. 2. A justice should disqualify himself or herself in a proceeding in which the justice's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. That is, where an unbiased and reasonable person who is aware of all relevant circumstances would doubt that the justice could fairly discharge his or her duties. Yes. Reasonable people absolutely should believe that you can't discharge your duties properly because of the fact that you were flying 2 insurrectionist-themed flags outside your houses. Reasonable people should believe that. You silly. The 2 incidents you cite do not meet the conditions for recusal. Of course, you say so. That doesn't mean it's true. The first incident cited in your letter concerns the flying of an upside-down American flag outside the house, where my wife and I reside. In considering whether this event requires recusal, an unbiased and reasonable person would take into account the following facts. As I've stated publicly, I had nothing whatsoever to do with the flying of the flag. Just because he says it doesn't make it not true. I was not even aware of the upside-down flag until it was called to my attention. As soon as I saw it, I asked my wife to take it down, but for several days she refused. So you have no problem telling your wife what to do when it comes to whether or not she can get an abortion. I don't know if she was of child-rearing age anymore, but still, you have no problem telling your wife or women what to do with aspects pertaining to their own lives. But when it comes to a flag, you have no problem with her stating her opinion on choice of how and where and when to fly a flag. My wife and I own our Virginia home jointly. She therefore has the legal right to use the property as she sees fit, and there were no additional steps that I could have taken to have the flag taken down more promptly. You could have taken it down yourself. If you wanted to. If it's really true that your wife flew it that way, and maybe it might have caused an argument, but you know what? Maybe you could have made a reasonable and responsible person might have said, I appreciate the sentiment that you're trying to share in putting this flag up, because we both don't like the fact that Biden is president, because that's probably a true statement as it pertains to the Alitos. You would say, this is making it difficult for me to do my job because the people who are looking at me doing my job don't think I can do it in an impartial way. And those people are probably reasonable in thinking that because we're flying the flag that's akin to the flag being flown by insurrectionists. My wife's reason for flying the flag are not relevant for present purposes, but I note that she was greatly distressed at the time due in large part to a very nasty neighborhood dispute in which I had no involvement, although, of course, the facts of that case show that the dispute, especially the referring of slurs and pertains to his wife, took place after the flag was seen flying, after he let, or she let, their freak flag fly. My wife is a private citizen, and she possesses the same First Amendment rights as every other American. She makes her own decisions. I've always respected her right to do so. She has made many sacrifices to accommodate my services in the Supreme Court. Including the insult of having to endure numerous loud, obscene, and personally insulting protests in front of our house. Well, maybe you shouldn't be such a D-bag, huh? Writing, terrible opinions and awful letters. I'm confident that a reasonable person who is not motivated by political or ideological considerations or desire to affect the outcome of Supreme Court cases would conclude that the facts recounted above do not meet the applicable standard for recusal. I'm therefore required to reject your request. Yeah, okay, brah, sure. Thank you, Stephen, for being a member. How can we recall Supreme Court justices? We can't recall them. They can only be impeached, which would require a vote on the Senate, and the Republicans would have to remove Alito, which they're never going to do. My wife is fond of flying flags. Did she like the episodes of Sheldon where they did, his podcasts or video series on flags? I am not. You do not. What's wrong, Alito? You don't like flying the American flag? Are you not a patriot, Alito? She was solely responsible for having flagpoles put up at our residence and our vacation home and has flown a wide variety of flags over the years. In addition to the American flag, she has flown other patriotic flags, including a favorite flag thanking veterans. Wait, is it her favorite or your favorite? I thought you didn't like flags. College flags, flags supporting sports teams, state and local flags, flags of nations from which ancestors of the family members came. Wait, so you're flying the flags of other countries? What are you, a treasonous terrorist? Do you hate this country now? Flags of places we have visited, seasonal flags, and religious flags. I was not familiar with the appeal of heaven flag when my wife flew it. She may have mentioned that it dates back to American Revolution. I assumed she was flying it to express a patriotic and religious message. I was not aware of any connection between that historical flag and the Stop the Steal movement, and neither was my wife. Sure. She did not fly it to associate herself with that or any other group, and the use of an old historic flag by a new group does not necessarily drain that flag of all other meanings. Imagine somebody making that argument for the swastika, for a flag with a swastika on it. I was unaware of other people. Just because other people misuse the swastika flag, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to fly it. As I said in reference to the other flag, my wife is an independently private-minded private citizen. She makes her own decisions. I honor her right to do so. Our vacation home was purchased with money she inherited from her parents, and it's titled in her name. It is a place away from Washington where she should be able to relax. A reasonable person who is not motivated by political, ideological considerations or desire to affect the outcome of Supreme Court cases would conclude this event does not meet the applicable standard for recusal. I am therefore duty-bound to reject the recusal request. So he said the same thing twice. And your signature sucks, by the way. This is a terrible signature. How is that Sam Alito? How on earth is this signature? I mean, the Donald Trump signature is more close to Donald Trump than this is to Sam Alito. Where's the O? What is that? How is that even a signature of Samuel Alito? It's bizarre. But yeah, old Sammy boy, who we have not found a good ruling from him so far. He just wants to believe that he has every single right to just have his wife fly the flag, and we're gonna not look at the man behind the curtain. It's irrelevant that she chose to start flying that flag right around the time of the insurrection. It's irrelevant that the people who support the Stop the Steal movement just so happen to fly that same obscure flag that probably no one else flies except for people who are, extreme flag nerds or whatever. But even then, they're probably not going to be flying that flag without reason, without cause, and they just so happen to, she just so happened to fly it after January 6th? Like, did she ever fly that flag before? Might be a good question to ask your wife. Hey, honey, did you ever fly that flag of the insurrectionists that they used? Did you ever fly it before that day? Or when did you buy that flag? Did you buy the flag after watching it on the news where people were using it to stop the steal and fight the whole stolen election thing? Is that when you bought, or why did you buy that flag? That would be a good question to ask Mr. Alito. When was that flag purchased? But again, he writes terrible letters, just like he writes terrible rulings. And, of course, nobody should be surprised that he won't recuse himself. It's pretty much up to him to determine if he should recuse himself or not. He was never going to do it. This is just the Democrats doing this in the Senate are simply doing it just to put him on the record, or in the House. They're simply doing it just to put him on the record as saying, hey, this is how we're going to behave. We don't give a crap about anybody else. We don't give a crap about what you think about what we're doing. We're just going to double down on our own stupidity. Don O'Leary, what's that saying about behind a good man is a good woman? I don't think that applies here. No, not at all. Because A, you'd have to have him be a good man, and that's just not the case. And then, you have to question her taste in men. Then again, of course, I question my wife's taste in men too, but that's completely different. But yes, Easy E, flying a flag upside down is a sign of distress and emergency. It was never meant to be done during a non-emergency. And she claims it was done because she was being threatened by the people around her, and that's why she was doing it. But in reality, that fight, the argument where the slur was thrown, I don't know if it was a see you next Tuesday slur or whatever, but where that slur was not until February, well after she first flew the flag. So she absolutely is just wanting to let that freak flag fly, and we're seeing it clearly that he never was going to recuse himself, and it was silly to think that he would, but it's just, that's why we want to have these things on record, so we can have the written response of him with his poor grammar and everything to see, yeah, of course he's not going to recuse himself because he's corrupt. He's part of an activist conservative court who is going to continue to do the wrong things for the American people because he wants to help implement Gilead in Project 2025. So what do you think? Agree, disagree? Make sure to leave your comments down below. Share the video, like, and subscribe, and have a good day. Again, I recorded that as well because I, figured I could upload that as well. If she flew the Confederacy flag upside down, would you know? Maybe that's why they had to flip from the Confederacy flag to something else, because they're like, oh, we can't fly this upside down. If we fly it upside down, it's going to look the same. That's a problem. Maybe that's why the Confederacy lost. There was no way. Or that's why they had to go with the white flag. They had to change their flag to the white flag of surrender. What's up, Bicycle Mike from all the way up in the mountains? Alito kept referring to reasonable people. Reasonable people wouldn't fly the American flag upside down. Exactly. Reasonable people wouldn't be married to your wife or wouldn't be married to you. I guess I don't know the wife from Adam or Eve or whatever, so I'm not quite sure. But if she's gonna be, if she is choosing to marry, whatchamacallit, let's see. Roger and Out and over on Twitch wanted me to scroll back to the names. Hold on a second. It's just the names of all the people, I guess, who maybe wrote the letter to him. So let's see. We've got Hank Johnson, Dan Goldman, Adam Schiff, Jamie Raskin, Madeline Dean, Jasmine Crockett, one of our heroes, Jan Shanikowski, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Eric Swalwell, Raul Grijavla, Jesus Garcia, Becca Ballant, Nikema Williams, Mark Pocan, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Melanie Stansbury, Sean Caston, Ayanna Presley, Adriano S. Bailett, Deborah K. Ross, Lloyd Doggett, Brendan Boyle, Veronica Escobar, Andrea Salinas, Sylvia Garcia, Ted Liu, Corey Bush, Pramila Jayapal, Daniel Kildee, Rashida Tlaib, Paul Tonko, Shelley Pingree, Maxwell Alejandro Frost, Steve Cohen, Jill Takuda, Jennifer McClellan, Glenn Ivey, Sheila Jackson Lee, Mickey Sherrill, Mark DeSaulnier, Frederica Wilson, Barbara Lee, Delia Ramirez, Nanette Diaz Barragan, I should say, Danny Davis. Wasn't he the referee when the Hart Foundation won the championships? Sorry, obscure wrestling moment. Betty McCollum, Kevin Mullen, Gerald Connolly, Earl Blumenauer, and Troy Carter. So, my congressperson. So there you go. That's the people. Yeah, that's the people. That's the people, I guess, supposedly, I guess those are the people who all sent the letter to and even write Alito. No, they're all Democrats, I believe. They're all people who wrote, they even write Alito. They wrote Roberts, and Alito responded in kind. Because I guess Alito was like, I'm going to answer this message. Hey, Elizabeth. Scott Peterson did it. That's not my point. My point isn't that Scott Peterson did or didn't do it. The point is that the judicial system should err on the side of testing again to make sure they did get it right for everybody, not just the people who we think are guilty, who may very well be guilty. And then half the time when guilt is determined or proven or disproven, half the time the Innocence Project comes forward with testing of DNA evidence, they're actually able to show a result. It shows that the person is really guilty. So you have closure in that point. And then, but in the other half, where they're able to find evidence to show that somebody is innocent, they're able to exonerate somebody and get them freed. So I'm worried that we're going to let more people wallow in prison when they shouldn't be wallowing in prison, because we subscribe to this idea that we should stop people from being able to question their imprisonment. Easy Network, what's this list? The list is just the people who Alito was writing in his silly little letter. Elizabeth, agreed then. Okay, good. Easy Network, I think Peterson did it, but they need to make sure he did or not. And yeah, that's basically the point. And again, even if we all think that, okay, he's guilty as all sin, there's nothing wrong with testing. If you test and it comes, it's just like with Donald Trump. Let's bring it all back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't want testing because he didn't want to see the information he didn't want to see. He didn't want to see all of the positive cases. So he wanted to stop testing. It was against testing. So if you're against testing the DNA, you're being like a Donald Trump. You want to verify that you have the right person. Let's verify the person. Somebody please say Trump is not going to win. Trump is not going to win. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I can't, tell you that, but I'll say it. Trump is not going to win. There you go. Aaron also said it. There you go. It's just bizarre, though, that there are people who will, if this does result in a conviction, and he is convicted of a felony, of New York felonies, whatever happens to him, if he's fined or if he's sent to prison or what have you, the judge opened the door for the fact that it might not result in imprisonment. It might just be a fine. It might not be prison. We can see. Let's. If Trump is found guilty, what could his punishment be? Each of the, let's see. If convicted, he could get, each of the 34 counts carries the possibility of up to 4 years in prison, but incarceration is not a given. Justice Juan Merchan could instead opt to impose a sentence of probation with no prison time, which, Oh, no, I don't want to play that. Stop it. There you go. Hey, Fancy, good to see you. See, according to Politico, it's not out of the question if he could go to prison. Former President Trump's first and only criminal trial crawls to a conclusion. Conventional wisdom holds that even if he's convicted, he's unlikely to do prison time. After all, the charges he's facing are among New York's mildest felonies, and if he's found guilty, it would be a first-time offender. The case in which Trump is accused of falsifying business documents to conceal a payoff to a porn star is unlike any other, so it's hard to predict how Juan Merchan, who is presiding over the trial, would handle any sentencing. This is not a one-off, oops, I made a mistake on my business records, or even a one-off scheme. Bragg, a Democrat, has alleged that the payoff to Stormy Daniels, who claimed he had a sexual encounter with Trump, was just part of a wide-ranging effort to bury potentially damaging stories about Trump. Given the entirety of the facts and circumstances that came out during the trial, I believe if convicted, a sentence of incarceration is warranted and justified, says Florence. If I were the prosecutor, I would absolutely be asking for state prison. The maximum sentence for the crime is charged with felony level falsifying business records is 4 years in prison. He is charged with 34 separate counts. If convicted of all of them and sentenced to prison, the prison terms for each count would almost certainly run concurrently.
Merchan, however, would not be required to issue any prison time. He would have wide discretion to choose a lighter punishment, such as probation or a term of, quote, conditional discharge. I don't want to hear about Donald Trump's discharge any more than I want to hear about his sex life. Sorry. Probation sentence would require Trump to check in regularly and abide by all the rules. Conditional discharge would allow Trump to remain free without probation supervision as long as he stayed out of trouble. Merchan would also order the former president to perform community service. That would be hilarious. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Trump has no prior criminal convictions, even though he's under indictments for 3 other cases and has been held contempt twice during the trial. So here's my opinion on that, I guess. Here's what I believe should happen when it comes to Donald Trump and what if Donald Trump should be convicted, if he's convicted, I should say. One would think that there would be enough evidence there to convict him, but I would think that it would be better for Merchan to impose some prison time. I'm not saying all 4 years, but impose some prison time as a punishment for the bad behavior. And if he punishes with prison time, Trump can always appeal both the conviction and the sentence. And an appeals court could be like, this is too strict. Let's push it back and let's push it back to lower court and give him a different sentence, or we could just impose a different sentence altogether. So it's easier to go from a harsher sentence to a weaker sentence than it is to go from a weak sentence to a stronger sentence. Because if Merchan were to give him a weak sentence, there's no way that on appeal they can be like, oh, well, we want it to be a stronger sentence. No. You get the weak sentence, you get the weak sentence. So it might be better off to punish with the stronger sentences and have the appeals court whittle it down versus going for a weak sentence just to save face. But, you know, it is what it is. Life sentence of eating American cheese sandwiches and orange Jell-O forever. I love orange Jell-O. It's the best Jell-O. If I get it on my face or my hands, no one can tell. No McDonald's. He can't have any hamburgers. Can we exile him? That's one of the things I was thinking. I was like, what happens if Donald Trump is actually sent to prison for any amount of time? Would he actually go to prison? Or would he flee the country at that point? Would he be like, I'm not going to prison. I was not built for the prison life. You can't lock me up. I'm going to go to a country without extradition. F you, Merchan. Would he do that? I don't know. But how do you put somebody in prison under Secret Service detail? Does that mean that the Secret Service detail also has to go to prison and spend time with you in prison? I don't know. That would be weird. You shouldn't be punished for being a Secret Service person. Or do they just become the guards at that point? I don't know. I doubt he would flee over a few months in prison. He might over the documents case. I don't know. We'll see. It really depends, I think, on where the prison was and how many months. So, won't they take his passport away once he's found guilty? I mean, doesn't stop him from getting on a personal jet, does it? Hopping off to a non-extradition country. He could lose Secret Service protection since it's a felony. Would Trump lose Secret Service protection if sent to prison? I don't know if that is going to come up. If Donald Trump is convicted of National Trump Manhattan, this is News Nation now, so take it with whatever grain of salt. Secret Service faces an unprecedented challenge protecting a former president behind bars. By law, the agency must guard Trump around the clock. Even before opening statements, the Secret Service began preparing for the extraordinary possibility of a former president incarcerated. Prosecutors asked the judge to warn Trump that witness intimidation could land him in jail before a verdict. The judge is more likely to issue a warning or a fine than the jail time for the 77-year-old before trial.
So yeah, take whatever they're saying with a grain of salt because it's, News Nation or whatever. I think it creates a constitutional crisis if he's put in prison and then elected president. Because then what do? Do you allow him to stay out of prison until it's over? Doesn't make any sense. Constitutional crisis. Roger Knight, if convicted, he may not be able to vote. That's correct, although he's registered to vote in Florida, so I think the person in charge of all that is Ron DeSantis, so I think he'd probably be able to figure out a way to vote. Why is his age suddenly important? Fox says age doesn't matter with Trump returning to POTUS. Of course it doesn't, unless it is. Because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite, right? He presidents from prison. They have to move the president desk into my jail cell, and I'll sign bills from there. But they can't give me a pen because I might stab somebody with it. Make it into a shank. Make somebody my prison bitch. I think it'll be the other way around because he's already Putin's bitch. So, it is what it is. Paint Rikers white so at least Trump can rant from a big white house. That's great. That's a good one. Thank you, Surrender Monkey. Can he even visit NATO countries having a felony conviction? Surely they would refuse entry. I know I won't want the UK to. That's an interesting question. Could he go as president with a felony? I think house arrest at Bedminster would be the worst punishment than jail for someone like him, maybe. How bad is Bedminster really? Have to put him on Bedminster, but you have to have him sit next to Kathy Griffin, not Kathy Lee Gifford, Kathy Griffin, the comedian who he hates. Anyway, so I think I've covered now everything that I wanted to cover. We got the Trump the jury. There's one more thing about the jury I think I wanted to throw in before we ended the show, which was something that I learned that was interesting. It was in the jury instructions. Basically, it was like there's, I think, 3 different ways that a crime could have been done for any of these felony counts, and I forget the exact ways in which they could be done. But there's 3 different ways that it could be done. So the judge, in giving the instructions to the jury, was basically like, if some of you think he's guilty of a felony or guilty of this crime because of this reasoning, and if some of you think you're reasoning A, if some of you believe he's guilty of that crime for reasoning B, and some of you think that he's guilty of the crime for reasoning C, it doesn't matter that you all disagree on A, B, and C. If you're sure it's A, if you're sure it's B, if you're sure it's C, if you're sure that a crime is committed, it doesn't matter that you disagree on the reasons why. The judge told them that they would still have to convict because they all agree that a crime was committed. Which could very well be maybe their point of contention or confusion based on the request to hear the instructions, the jury instructions again. So it's just an interesting thing that was heard today that I was like, I didn't realize that. I would have thought, I guess, at least intuitively, that in order for that the jury would have to all agree on the reasons behind the guilt. But if there's 3 possible tracks you can go to get to guilty, and 4 of them go one way, 4 of them go the other way, 4 the other go, as long as they get to guilty, it doesn't matter how they get to guilty, and then he would be found guilty. So what's going on, Benny Loco? I mean, I'm going to be shocked if the jury doesn't come up with a guilty verdict. But it's good that they didn't come without a verdict yet. I think it's good that they didn't get a verdict yet. I think it's good that they're asking questions. I think it's good that they want to know more about the jury instructions. I think this means that they're being absolutely just 100% up, going about things the right way. Because if they were an impartial, as Trump has been trying to say, this is a sham, Mother Teresa couldn't have... You're not Mother Teresa, dude. But Mother Teresa couldn't get a fair trial here, is what he believes. But if they're taking their time, they're being deliberate in how they deliberate, I think it's good that they're taking their time to get this done. Make sure that every I is dotted. Make sure every T is crossed. By doing that, you make sure that the trial doesn't have the appearance that, oh, it's just a bunch of jurors who are after Donald Trump. And all the people on the jury, Donald Trump's legal team didn't object to, so there's no excuse at this point. So, yeah, Mother Teresa did do a lot of bad in poor countries, but, I mean, I'm sure Donald Trump probably doesn't even know that. Just saying. Roger, I don't ever call Mother Teresa committing a sex crime. Not that I'm aware of. Mother Teresa never said that it's okay to go up and grab people by the hoo-ha. Yeah, nailing himself to a cross invoking Mother Teresa was hilarious. I mean, it would all be funny if it wasn't all true. This would be like a stand-up comedy if it wasn't the fact that we were facing a literal existential threat of having Donald Trump be president again. It's absurd. Anywho, let us go ahead. I think we're going to call it a night for the night because I am starting to feel the tireds kicking in, and while we can't do our normal outro, we still have the regular outro. And I just want to thank everybody for joining. Again, I'm going to be back Monday. Maybe I'll go live if there is a ruling tomorrow. Maybe. Keep your eyes peeled for that. It's possible. It's not probable, but it's possible. I'm sure Hal will go live, and I don't want to duplicate his efforts either. So, I mean, at some point, if I ever get around to have enough people where I can do this full time, there's going to be a point where it's just like, well, if you know, both of us going live at the same time is just going to be an inevitable for breaking events and breaking news. But at this point, I try not to compete with Hal as much as possible. So, yeah, take down your inverted flag and have a good night. Yes, absolutely. So again, thank you everybody for joining the chat. If you haven't done so already, go click on the game that's pinned on the top of both the YouTube and the Twitch streams. It's a very easy, fun little game to play. It's very addictive. It's just matching things, and you build like a castle. There's some other little tips and tricks that I had posted on my Twitch, on nerdydan.com on Twitch. If you go look at my recent videos that I posted, it kind of shows you what to do and how to go through levels, especially when you're at the end of levels and you're about to lose. You can use some of your little power-ups, but you don't have to spend any money to play this game. This game is free to play, and again, it's fun, and I've been sitting here playing it a lot the past couple days, and I'm well beyond where I need to be, and I'm still playing, so there you go. I need at least 8 people to get up to level 125. And then I'll max out and join the nerdydan.com team. It's just nerdydan, DOTCOM, all one word. Join that team. Help me get to 500 points. That will enable me to hit the last bonus that I need to do, and we'll be able to actually finish this task. It's only about $300 or whatever, but if we get there, it'll be my best. It'll be the best, most successful sponsorship that I've gotten. But otherwise, unless something big happens before the end of the week, I'll be back Monday, 8 p.m. Central, and always, Nerdy Dan stuff as well on Tuesdays, and then of course Mondays and Wednesdays is here at Liberal Dan Radio to support the show. Remember that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe already here on YouTube, liberaldanradio.com. Go to twitch.tv/liberaldanradio to follow there. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe there for free with Amazon Prime. Otherwise, you can spend bits like Alyosha do. Thank you very much for the bits, Alyosha. You can also gift people memberships, over here, and you can become a liberal Danimal. as well. Steve Sayers is a member for 1 month. Appreciate you for that. Nerd Misha gifted 10 memberships. You can also send super chat, super stickers. You can buy me a cider. LiberalDan.com. Click the Buy Me a Cider button, and that'll bring you there. You can Venmo me, LiberalDan on Venmo. Again, just friends and family, because we're not buying anything from me. Until next time I see y'all, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.